know there ain't no stopping us. Fly without a boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Didn't even get to bronze. I said I'm moving too far. Get to glass. You're looking at a shooting star. Got more than a couple of people going mad. I swear they're rooting hard. Tell them I'd be big in the game like she went and got them breast implants. I said I'm moving too fast. Didn't even get to glance. I'm ready to eat up track like I'm seated in a restaurant. If you had swag like mine, you know it's best to flaunt. We aren't hating because you aren't. Shining like it's neon. Rock like kings of Leon. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, them amateurs have to leave. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, them amateurs have to leave. Yeah, shooting. Yeah, shooting. Yeah.
Okay, everyone, and I'm not sure if I'm on the screen now. And no, that's not a new intro, Mike, and I'm not on the screen. Hold on. It's not a new intro. This is a laptop I don't normally use. It's the laptop that I use, and I am closing down some screens here. It's the laptop that I normally use for the Liberty Boudoir, and that is the Liberty Boudoir intro. Okay, now let me get my camera. I see what I'm doing wrong here. I'm at work still, so if you are, I'm not clocked in, I'm clocked out. We don't really like have a time clock, but I'm not working, as it were. I'm taking a break. Hold on, I'm trying to figure, okay. Now we're working. Okay, so I'm in the office, not in my studio, but I want to show you something funny. They're much more relaxed here, you know, where I could stay and take breaks. But I want to show you guys something funny. I'm going to have to move my computer to do this. And because this is the Liberty Boudoir setup, this isn't a good microphone. I planned on being home. I'm going to tell you that story in a minute. So I'm sorry, sound quality's not that great. There might be some updating that needs to be done to the bottom of the screen. This isn't the computer I planned on using. My outro, I updated everything up through yesterday. Mike, I haven't gotten your name on there yet, but that is next. And we also have to talk, though, about the perks and things that I'm going to insist that you take. So we will talk about that when we talk privately. But I want to show you something. I have this in my office. Right there. Birds aren't real. Wake up, Colorado. Because I love when you're starting a new place and people don't know you very well. So one of the super nice attorneys, so she comes in my office today, and we're talking, then I see her like glance up there, because this is new. I just put this up there. Glance up, and then continues talking, and then you can see her giving it the side eye again, going like, Should I ask her about that? Nobody has yet to ask me about it. So slowly, more and more, birds aren't real paraphernalia is going to start appearing in his office. I want to see how long it takes. So maybe tomorrow I'll pin up my Birds Aren't Real 2020 presidential bumper sticker. Maybe I'll pick up one of those shirts that has the pigeon on it that says I'm a liar, for pigeons are liars. I just want to see how long it takes and how long I can pull off that, like, I really believe this and what their reaction will be. Because I'm just weird sense of humor like that. And you want to know what? This needs to be more on the screen. If we're going to be here. And yeah, I do have it stuck up with thank you stickers, which is kind of weird too. Because I didn't have any tape. We need the birds aren't real very prominently here. And I got to get some better tape, but here we go. Birds aren't real. That's perfect. Okay. So I don't know. I just have a very, very weird sense of humor. And I'm just making sure I don't have anything in screen that's identifying, because this is not my home or my studio. But again, on my own time right now. I will be going back to work after this. So we're going to make this as quick as possible, which, for me is very difficult. I'm trying to figure out how I can see comments. So if you give me just 1 second here. I got way too many screens open. I don't know why I did this to myself, because I've just been so busy. So let me explain how this happened where I'm working late while I am trying to figure out how to find comments. As you guys know, I'm not an actual flat earther, but I wish I were an actual flat earther, because me and the curvature of the earth do not get along. I cannot figure out time zones to save my life. And every single time I set up a time zone meeting and it's not in mountain time, I screw it up. And I try to tell all my friends this. I know I'm a grown woman. I don't know what it is. So I had a meeting today with some folks, concerned about the Delaware situation. Obviously, if you all saw the abortion of a meeting last night. And it was set for Eastern time. And I don't know why I thought Eastern was 2 hours ahead of here. I'm getting confused. Whatever it was, I screwed it up. Yeah, I set the meeting up for 4:30 Eastern, thinking it would be 6:30 here. And it ended up being 2:30 here, right in the middle of my workday, and it was an hour and something meeting. So I'm staying here late to make up my time. Not going to get into all of that. We're going to do, I think Mike's going to come on with me. We're going to do a recap of that absolute abortion of a meeting. However, one thing I do want to tell you is that you're going to notice from this point on, and I'm going to ask you to mostly keep me accountable, but please don't ride my booty about it, is as I'm focusing on my campaign and as I'm looking towards the future, and the future is not this LNC, I'm going to really, really dig into the issues. I'm going to light up the issues, but I'm really trying to stay away from the actors, because they're gone. Okay, they're gone. Doesn't mean I'm going to shy away from it. I'm just saying, I know people used to get a lot of entertainment factor out of me just lighten up, because X cried or whatever it might be. That's not really going to be my modus operandi going forward for several reasons. One, I've proven my point. Okay, I've proven my point. And B, it puts me in a campaign frame of mind that I don't like. I do not believe in negative campaigning. And when you continually think negative things about people, whether or not they're disturbed, it puts you in the wrong frame of mind. Anyone who knows any of my past campaigns, even when Alicia Matson went dirty on me, I refuse to go that. And I just won't. There are some potential exceptions to that. If one of the very bad actors is fraudulently put into place to allegedly replace me, because as you know, I'm still the secretary. I can't ignore corruption, but there's one very nice gentleman who's been declared against me since way before this happened, and I will have zero tolerance for negative campaigning against him. He's a wonderful gentleman, and that's kind of what I mean. But like if, say, I'm going to name a name here, like Richard Longstreth ran against me, I'm sorry, yeah, I'll just try not to mention him, because that dude, when you're a backstabber, it's very difficult. But my intention is to focus more and more and more on issues. We all know who the bad players are. And I would like your feedback if that's something you would welcome, or if you still don't understand the players and you want me to mention names specifically. What I'm going to try to do in the future is use titles, because even that's what Robert says to do, to depersonalize. So I'm just pulling something out of the air. I'm not going to say anything about any particular person right now. I'm going to make up a region. So for instance, rather than saying, John Jones, I might say the Region 9 representative. Just to keep things, because this whole thing has been so tough on me that I am just trying to get myself in a better place. And that's kind of my attitude. I might change my mind, but that's where my head's at. And my shows are always very intimate. I view you guys as my circle of intimate friends. I get hurt that way sometimes because I trust too easily, but you know what? That's just how I am. So I'm going to try to find where I can put comments up, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that, because again, these are always conversations. Ooh, there are some, there are some comments. Now, again, listen, I can't tell you guys what you can say or not say. All I can say is if you're working on my campaign team will have a zero tolerance for negative campaigning against the candidate who's currently declared against me. I like him, he likes me, and we both mutually agreed we would not go there. And he has kept his word by dismissing from his campaign staff people who could not keep that agreement. Okay. That's where we'll go. Oh, and I love these glasses too. They're like so teeny tiny, All right, we are going to a 3-hour recap. I know, Fidalgo, are you making fun of me? You are making fun of me. Jackie Perry cast the spell on the Mises Caucus? Oh, come on. Hayden, tell me you're joking. Tell me you are joking. Okay, you guys are going to have to write me about that privately. I definitely will. Oh, please send it to me, because I can think of a funny skit to do with that. I like doing like funny skits, or just making, absurd jokes like I did earlier today, where I said that I and a co-conspirator took over the Mandalorian Party of Delaware, and we passed some bylaws amendments in which Will McVeigh is required to give us daily foot massages, and I hereby declare myself the minister of silly walks. And my co-conspirator declared himself the director of pistachio research. So I'm sorry if any of you guys wanted those positions. They are taken. I know that pistachio research position is super sweet, but he claimed it. He claimed it. She cast a curse. Oh my word. Oh my word. Interesting. Okay. let's just say, bless her heart. Just bless her heart. So now we're going to talk about the actual subject, because I do have work to do tonight, which will motivate me to be more succinct than I normally am. But I do have to do my grifting, because if I don't, I will not have lived up to my indecorous, horrible reputation. The Massachusetts costs have been covered. There is an optional event in Massachusetts that, depending upon how things go, I may go to. So I'd like to make the offer to you guys, and if you want to support that, you can. Otherwise, there's plenty of other trips. There is an LP fundraiser on Friday night. It's so hard to have an opinion on it because, as a povertarian myself, when things like are priced out of my normal range, I'm like, but I get it. There are wealthier people in the party, and the party does need to raise money. And I do not begrudge fundraising for the party because the LNC is not paid. Please do not stop contributing to the National Party because the LNC sucks. You're hurting staff, you're hurting other members. Now, if you'd prefer to give to your state party or county party, fine. Like, those should always come first. So what I'm getting at, only because this would annoy all the right people, there is a fundraiser on Friday night. The ticket price, which all the proceeds go to the Libertarian Party, is $150. I do not have that. If I fundraise that, it will be a donation to the LP, so it almost be like anybody supporting that for me would be giving to me to give to the LP. And that's always a good thing, but I'll tell you right off the bat, I will earmark it to the Historical Preservation Committee. I encourage everybody to earmark your donations to the National Party if there are projects you believe in more than others. So if that's something you guys wish to support, again, any super chats leading up to that time, if I end up raising that, I will attend that event, earmark it to the Historical Preservation Society, and be at an event that most people will not expect me to be at, and with the higher donors of the party to show them who their secretary is. Because I want to continually appear in front of members as the secretary of this party. So I would love to go to that event. If that's something you wish to support, you can do that so voluntarily, and it does help the LP. Another offer I have, if anyone here, and you don't have to do this, you will not insult me. I'm just throwing this out there. If anyone here is considering becoming a life member, and I would really, really encourage it, and you get a great pin this year. It's like this 50th anniversary pin that, like, I covet so badly. Like, if I was flush with cash, I would, like, redo my life membership just to get that damn pin. But if you're considering becoming a life member, you will irritate all the right people and honor me if, when you do your life membership, you make the request that you want to be pinned by me. As you know, they often have these pinning ceremonies. And some people will not like that request, particularly if you are going to be in Massachusetts and you have considered becoming a life member. Do it there and give me the honor and irritate all the right people of them having to give me time to publicly pin you. I would enjoy that immensely, and you would be helping the party. So let's now go into the shenanigans. And this is a tiny little laptop, so taking a look at comments makes it difficult. I'm trying to position this where I can see comments. Let me try this. Okay. JJ, the spellcaster's not in Delaware. She's in New Hampshire. Okay. If any of you were at that abortion of a meeting last night, I'm sorry. I know I had nothing to do with it, but I'm still sorry that you had to go through that. It's like, when somebody's witnessed a tragic event, a bad car crash. I'm sorry. You probably will need counseling. Hopefully, if you were in my stream, and I've gotten more views on that stream in one day than any other, except for my, I have a very short video. No, actually, it is for 1 day record, but my highest viewed video, it's this little short video I have. It's like 30 seconds long, and it's entitled Government Drone Malfunctioning, and it's a birds not real thing, and that's my highest viewed video. And the comments on it are hilarious because people are like, I can't tell if you're serious or not. So if you haven't seen it yet, look on my channel for Government Drone Malfunctioning. It's a perfect troll. It was very painful, that meeting. It was very painful. And embarrassing. The party chair was extremely rude to everybody. In a way, it makes me feel better because I thought she was just rude to me. I'm going to stop there, though. We're going to do a recap of that meeting another time. I want to stick to the topic at hand, which is the Trojan horse. So this came up at that meeting, and it sprung over. And hopefully I'm going to be able to do a screen share. Otherwise, I'm just going to... It's more ominous when you see the actual words. Before I start, though, I know you guys hate when I say that. It's almost like, oh, I'm about to go. But there's an intro I do have to give. There's something this LNC needs to come to terms with, whether they like it or not. They need to come to terms with the fact that they have lost the trust of the party. Even if they came up with the most wonderful plan for something, it's going to tank because they have completely exhausted their political capital. People do not trust them. And there is nothing they can do to recover that. Well, there is a few things they could do, but they're not willing to do it. And they would still, even if they did these few things, never recover trust, but they would get more. One of them would be reinstating me and me accepting certain things that I would find distasteful, such as not opposing a censure, even though I don't think I deserve one, that sort of thing. If both of us swallowed our pride a little bit, and I'm willing to, the offer's on the table. That offer's always been on the table. I'm not the one refusing, they are. I think if they did that, they would recover some trust, but they're not going to do that. So what this LNC needs to recognize is they're a lame duck until convention. And they need to stop trying to do novel things. Because even if it's a great idea, nobody's going to trust them, and they will have poisoned a great idea. They should just do their basic job, concentrate on putting on a smooth and very profitable convention, and move on. But what they're doing right now, there's been more emails on the list this past day than have been on the list probably in the past 3 weeks, because they're frantically trying, like how a kid, if he makes a mess on the floor, will try to like put some Legos over it, like they try to hide it in a way that's like so obvious, like a dog trying to hide behind the tree and you can still see his tail sticking out the side. So that's what they're doing right now. There's this flurry of activity to distract from the fact that what we witnessed last night was an utter embarrassment. Like worse than amateur hour. So they're trying to like come up with things they can do to distract and make it look like they're productive, because yesterday proved the lie. We haven't been able to get anything done because that mean pink-haired person in Colorado. We couldn't do anything. I know nobody believed that, but that was their excuse. Yeah. And we saw yesterday. Yeah, they're so much more productive. And here's the fact. God, I'm getting into a recap of the meeting again. Not going to do that. We know it was not productive by any stretch of the imagination. Unless you mean productive for completely destroying the credibility of the LP. Yeah, it was productive at that. So they just need to cool their jets, shut their mouths, do the basic administrative work of this party, and move on. And there's some good ones. There's some good ones who need to stay. You guys, I try to mention their names. Please know when I say the LNC, I don't mean all of them. Remember, I was criticizing the LNC when I was on the LNC, and I obviously didn't mean me. So it is a bit of collectivism, but we know who we're talking about, and it's not the good ones, okay? But those bad ones, even the good ones though, they're tainted by the bad ones. They just need to just do the basic work of this party. But instead, there's motions going back and forth. And there's a prediction I have that I'm going to tell Mike privately, because I might have a big favor to ask of him, which he could say no to. And I think he knows exactly what I'm talking about, because we think way too alike. But I don't want to say this publicly. But I know you thought the exact same thing. I know right now you're going, oh shit, she saw that too, didn't you? I betcha, Mike, we're like this right now. We'll talk about it later. So it came up in the meeting that it's indisputable, nobody disputes, that Delaware has shitty bylaws. Very shitty bylaws. They're not the only ones. So it came up during the meeting, I believe. It might have waited till a motion on the list the next day. We are thinking the same thing, aren't we? It has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about here tonight. It's something we haven't talked about yet. But I know you saw it. I know you saw it. I almost called you the minute I saw it. I forgot where I was at, because I'm now thinking about Mike and I's little secret conversation we're having here. I had something in my teeth. I'm always... Oh yeah, that's where the power is. Okay, you're getting me back on track. I don't know if the subject came up last night this thoroughly, but by the time I woke up in the morning, Steve and Nikayla asked for feedback on a proposed motion. Now, I want to be very, very, very clear here. Even though I think his motion will have horrible consequences, I do not believe Stephen has any bad intentions. Sometimes some of the worst things start with the best intentions. I do not think he sees what I see, and I know he watches my show, and he will listen with an open mind, and I hope he will reconsider pursuing this and become an opponent. So there were some people who walked it back a little. So I'm going to be critical, but not, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. So Stephen proposed a motion that the LNC form a bylaws advisory committee. That might not be the exact name, but that's basically what it is. And what its function would be for affiliates that wanted people who knew about bylaws, presumably, though the LNC does not always appoint people on committees due to qualifications. They do it based upon cronyism. We've seen some of the least qualified people be placed on committees, both at state level, as Mike and I know, and at national level, as all of us know. But presumably people who know about bylaws and not just who's friends with who. And this committee would then review and give suggestions. Now that does sound benign enough, doesn't it? You might even think, oh, I was starting a county party and I could have used that. That, again, that's the classic example of inviting the vampire into your home. The LNC is a factional, politicized group by nature. And bylaws are not, like some people might want to think, just simply neutral. There are agendas and philosophies behind bylaws, and there has always been competing views in this party over which is right. Let me give you one such view. Should the bylaws say that the purpose of the party is only to elect candidates? Some people think that. Some people think it should say both education and election. That's a dispute that's been going on for 50 years. Do you want the LNC really having the authority to appoint somebody who's going to assist some county in writing their affiliates that will have a factional, even if it's my faction, predisposition? A lot of times you have new people starting counties. They're very impressionable. They trust what's coming out of national. It's the national party that puts a lot of weight behind it, that now the national party indirectly will start salting the soup this way and having bylaws geared towards certain factional interests. That is so insidious that you should be running away screaming. That is so antithetical to how the founders of this party envisioned the relationship between the national party and the affiliates. The LNC itself should be hands off their own bylaws committee for national, because it's the bylaws that constrain the LNC. The fox should not be the one drawing up the construction plans for the hen house. It's not always bad. Sometimes the LNC can see an error and make suggestions, but it's a fine line, and it's best to be hands off. So now you have the LNC suggesting that they have this committee that's going to now have its hands into, you know how they say the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world? Well, it will be rocking the cradle of the baby affiliates, the counties, and can start steering the party factionally in its own direction. And Hayden, it's just an advisory board, but it doesn't matter. When you go to your doctor, they don't force you into treatment. They merely advise you. But you put great weight in their opinion because you think they know what they're talking about and that they're not going to steer you wrong. When you're dealing with new county parties who don't know what they're doing, a lot of times, even people who've been around for a while place way too much trust. Oh, well, he's elected chair. He must know. They don't have a healthy enough distrust. The advisory board will exert a subtle pressure. You don't think if there's a debate between two people on this county bylaws drafting that one won't say, but this is what national recommends. And you don't think that will be an argument stopper? Of course it will be. Of course it will be. And it doesn't even have to be intended to be that way. It's just the nature of an unequal power relationship. to have the LNC involved at all in that, in appointing a committee to do that, even in its most benign form, is awful. It is the intention of Mr. Nikela is pure. The outworking of it, by the time it goes through the bureaucrats, will be malevolent. Now, someone then suggested something that I think would be fine, but I would still be very leery of it. And now let me also put some caveats, because some of you might be thinking to yourself, if you're really listening to what I'm saying, aren't you being a hypocrite? I do not care if any LNC member on their own broadcasts out, hey, I enjoy working with bylaws. If you want help in looking at your bylaws, I'd be more than willing to help you. That's them doing it on their own, not sanctioned by the LNC. They're known actors. You know what biases they have. I've been doing that for years. So nothing wrong with that. But to have the LNC put its blessing on a certain group of people, that's a bridge way, way too far. And to address Hayden's point, no, let's put a pin in that, Hayden, because it's going to be more logical in another spot. And actually, every state does have people like me that are obsessed with this stuff. I've been in nearly every state, and there is. Now, some of them aren't as qualified as they think they are, like Mr. Will McVeigh. Second thing, if you're drafting new bylaws, honestly, you are putting yourself in danger unless you have a parliamentarian help you. Or somebody, I'm not a big believer in the piece of paper, or someone who has the experience and knowledge that if they just sat down for the damn test, they would get the paper. Just because someone likes bylaws and thinks they're good at it does not make them good at it. And this voluntary certification, because you can start a parliamentary business tomorrow and not have any certification. This is all voluntary. But somebody who gets the voluntary certification from the National Association of Parliamentarians or the American Institute of Parliamentarians, you know they've had to pass certain core competencies. Joe Blow, who loves bylaws, is not necessarily competent. And why am I so concerned about bylaws? I'm going to recount that conversation that I had with Aaron Starr on the very first day I met him. We were talking because I was wanting to see if there was a vacancy. I was brand new. I didn't know how appointments worked on the platform committee. And full disclosure up front, it was because at that time I was bound and determined to delete the abortion blank. That's no longer a focus of mine. I think it should be deleted, but it's not going to happen. It's no longer a focus of mine, despite what Carol Moore says. But he looked at me straight in the eye, and it creeped me out. And this is 7 years now, and I still get an icky, weird feeling. Like I can remember it like it was yesterday. Mike, you could get your certification. You just need to sit for the exam. But I do think somebody sitting for the exam is a good indication. It's a voluntary certification, which we believe in as libertarians. So he said to me, Karen Ann, why do you want to be on the platform committee? Bylaws is where the real power is at. And that sent such a chill down my spine. And it creeped me out so badly that the minute I got home, I said to Wayne, I go, I don't know what it is, but I've got a really weird feeling about this guy. It really freaked me out. It really freaked me out. But it's true. Bylaws are where the power is at. It is the hand that rocks the cradle, that rules the world. And for the LNC to be thinking they're going to be forming these kinds of committees is insane. Now, to get to Hayden's point, there already are sample bylaws out there. There are already beginner books on how to draft bylaws and certain minimum things you should have in it. There are a lot of those books. There's a chapter on it in Roberts that's actually pretty easy to understand, that tells you the basic sections you should have and what it should cover. You do not need a committee to tell you that. You just need to read that chapter. I still would advise you getting a parliamentarian, but there are books that are even condensed down even more. Mike, what was that book that Alan Scott was so enamored with, and John Hirschman? And it wasn't a bad book. It was like Bylaws Writing Made Simple or something like that. It's a good little workbook. There's plenty of resources out there. The LNC does not need to be doing this and appointing a committee. Now, somebody said something which would be less insidious, but because these resources already exist, I would still be opposed to it, unless the LNC put everybody on the list who met certain neutral requirements. So somebody had said, rather than having a committee, why don't we just have a list of people who are libertarians, who are qualified, who have agreed to be put on a list to volunteer their time to help affiliates. And we give that list to anyone who asks and say it's up to you to vet these people. I think that actually could be a helpful idea, as long as they didn't put, as long as the requirements were just like, you demonstrate proficiency in parliamentary law, and you're a libertarian, and you're willing to do it for free. And that's it. But you know the LNC will start adding other qualifications. I don't trust them. But that would be a decent idea. But now let's look to where this conversation went. And I have a feeling this is why Steve shut up after his initial post, because he saw that authoritarians are going to authoritate, because this conversation went south, frighteningly, malevolently south, so quickly. So I woke up this morning, literally, and read this thread, and poor Wayne, because I lost my ever-loving mind. Like, I lost my shit. And, not going to say who, already through the day, I have heard today, on the second part, which doesn't have to do with the bylaws, we're going to get to a second part, but combined with this first part, I've already heard from several affiliates who say disaffiliation from national is now on the table if they're going to pursue this. Why is this lame duck LNC trying to pursue something like this when people already think they're awful and people don't trust them? This is so tone deaf, but they're trying to cover up for the fact that they got absolutely nothing done last night, except prove their incompetence and Whitney's rudeness. So I want to show you the thread, because I want to show you how quickly this nice little road leads to hell and the destruction of our party, and I am not exaggerating. So give me 1 second. I want to pull up, I'm going to find the email. I'm on a much smaller computer than I'm used to, so I got to do a little moving around. And you'll see why I call this a Trojan horse. Because, you know, that's a nice little horse that, you know, Stephen rolled up. It's a nice gift. I'd like to have that horse in my house. And the minute you roll that horse in, and when you see what hops out of it, holy crap, you don't want that in your house. All right. Okay, so here's Stephen's email, is entitled Seeking Input on Motion. And it's taking forever to load. Okay. Nope, and it pulled up the wrong email. This computer is really old, and I think I am going to need a new one soon. If I can't have it pull up fairly quickly, I really want you to see it in writing. Where's my phone? Because I could hold my phone up too. I cannot believe how slow this computer is. Are you kidding me? Google, are you kidding me? Hold on, where's my phone? I'm going to grab my phone. I don't want you guys to think I'm like exaggerating. Okay. All right, it's up. I'm resisting myself from making the comment that I know Mike wants to make too. Okay, so let's pull this up. Gotta hold my tongue again. Let me share my screen. Now, that's not what I want you to see. This is what I want you to see. Okay. So, I'm going to hide comments here a minute. And it says, so Stephen, starting it off, I'm seeking feedback on the following. I move to create an ad hoc special committee whose purpose is to review the founding documents of the affiliates as requested by the affiliates to make suggestions for professionalizing the rules in regards to members' rights. That's not a neutral question. That is not some... I already went over why National should not have its fingers in this. Okay. Now, Richard Longstreth. Let's expand the language to governing documents. Assistance may be required for policy manuals as well. Nobody at a national level is going to have any idea of what kind of special rules of order are appropriate, required, will not cause factional issues within the state. Like that right there, that's like saying, and why don't we find meeting space for them? And why don't we plan their conventions for them? This is just Richard trying to get out of the blast radius of his abysmal performance of last night. And then Tim says the motion needs to state how the committee is populated. Actually, it doesn't, Tim. It's nice to do that, but Mike and I did a whole cultivar O&R on that. Maybe you need to brush up on that, but again, that's just me being a little catty. And then Ken Molman. And again, I totally disagree with Ken on his input here. I spoke with Ken personally, and I would like to actually tell you what I said to Ken, because I do not want to harm people with friendly fire. So let me tell you, and I'm not going to tell you what he said because I don't reveal private conversations. But this is what I said to Ken. Actually, no, I talked to him about the charter thing. So it's not relevant. Yeah, I'll tell you when it's relevant. So he says, I think this is mostly about creating templates, right? I would support a motion to create a committee that creates template articles and suggested content. No, no, no. Kill it with fire. Kill it with fire before it reproduces. Ken, that's a terrible idea. I know your intentions are good because you're one of the best people on the LNC. And he's really good at bylaws, by the way. But no. That's even worse than reviewing what's already created and saying, you know, this wording's a little awkward. It could be read two different ways. Did you mean it this or this? Where you're very neutral, just trying to make sure they know what their own documents say, to creating templates. In Colorado, I was even opposed to the state party creating templates for the counties. Now, here's where it gets very malevolent. Region 1 states, this is the authoritarian that thinks he rules over you. There's Chris Lucchini. This is ominous. This is where I started to lose my mind. I don't know that this review should be limited to those affiliates that opt in. Oh, so last night, wait, I've got to put the camera back up for this. Just let that sink in, please. You know what? I don't think we should limit it just to the people who want us to do this. How many times did we hear last night, illegitimately in the way they were using it? We're bottom up, not top down. I think even Lucchini said that. And now he's saying, you know, I think we should just go sticking our nose in all of the affiliates' bylaws, whether they ask us to or not. Peasants. He doesn't think this review should be limited to those that want it? Let me tell you something right now, Mr. Lucchini, and I'm trying to obey my loftier goals, so I'm going to put this in as polite a way I can. We don't want you within 300 miles of our bylaws, Mr. Lucchini. Keep your nose out of Colorado's business. We don't care what you think of our bylaws. I had much juicier language, and I am proud of myself for not saying it. But just imagine that an LNC member's like, we should just go review everybody's, because, you know, we might not like, I'm going to just pull a state out of the air, Ohio's bylaws. And I think we should have a say in that. The arrogance. Let me tell you something I said in a debate with David Aiken, who was trying to convince Colorado to move our emails to the national server. Another idea which sounds benign on its face. And for those affiliates who are paying a lot for email service, it might be a good deal. But Colorado is one of those groups that got in on the Google G Suite when it was still in experimental phase. We are grandfathered in with 50 free email addresses. Like, people are paying through the nose for that, and we get it for free. We're never giving that up. But for some reason, and I'm sure it was for good intentions, just like Ken's intentions are good, Steve's intentions are good, he wanted us to move to an email server controlled by National. Yeah, after New Hampshire and Delaware, anyone thinks that's a good idea? I don't. More centralization. I was like over my dead body. I said, and I don't want, because I'm also the secretary of Douglas County, I go, plus that would make all the counties have an @LP Colorado email address. As Douglas County Secretary, switching hats, we are not LP Colorado. We are Douglas County, and we have our own autonomy. And what I told David is, no matter what level I'm at, I distrust everybody above me. So when I have on my Douglas County of Colorado Secretary hat on, you want to know who I distrust? The Libertarian Party of Colorado and the National Libertarian Party. I distrust both of them. And if we ever grew to have like city parties, like some states have, like if there was ever a Libertarian Party of Castle Rock, you want to know who I would distrust? The Libertarian Party of Douglas County, the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and the National Libertarian Party. We always need to learn to distrust those over you. This blind trust is not right, because power corrupts, even the limited power of the LP. And when I have my Colorado hat on, I distrust the National Party. And when I had, and I still am, secretary, whether they will recognize me or not, you want to know who I distrusted when I was on the LNC? Myself and everyone sitting at that table. I don't have blind trust in the human will not to be corrupted. You must be ever vigilant. In no way should you be giving your email, power over your email. When National last night just decided that if somebody just declares themselves Grand Poobah, that they're going to recognize them. Good thing there wasn't a CRM involved. But National just participated in the theft of $10,000. That's going to go into the meeting recap. But I'm just saying, distrust all these ideas sound nice. And I was all for the CRM in the beginning. I'm starting to lose my passion for the CRM after what happened to New Hampshire. But I found a way to be comfortable with it, and that is there needs to be automated data backups to every single board member who wants it and has signed the NDA, so that National could never just declare someone else chair and run off with your data. And we have that in place in Colorado. But that's fortunate because we have David Aiken, who's on staff at National and knows the CRM as well as everybody. But if I were a state that didn't have a database expert, I don't think I would be on National CRM. I wouldn't trust it for a minute. And that's why New Hampshire pulled out. And I don't blame them. If we didn't have David Aiken, I probably would want to pull out. And that saddens me to say that. Because political parties live and die on data, and we need to be secure in our data. But the National Party, the LNC, has proven so distrustworthy. This LNC is either one of two things. In the history books, it will be the LNC that history will point to as this was the beginning of the destruction of the Libertarian Party when we're gone. Or the history books will say this was the beginning of a revolution to prevent the destruction of the Libertarian Party. Those are the only two options. This LNC has been more destructive to our existence. And I know a little bit about party history, baby. And some people go, you're just saying that because you're ass mad because they threw you off. You want to know at this point, I'm almost like, maybe you did me a favor of throwing me off the Titanic. Because that ship's going down. But I don't want them to bring the rest of us down with it in the suction. That's what I'm concerned about. We are in trouble, folks. But going back to the bylaws thing, I want to show you how it gets even more ominous. Did you think Chris Lucchini's argument was not ominous enough? I'm not going to reveal my sources here, but the next person I'm going to read, from what I understand, is the Prague faction of the LNC's dream candidate to fraudulently replace me as secretary. Maybe my sources are wrong. I'm not going to tell you who the sources are, but I'll tell you what they told me, and we'll find out. So far, my sources have been pretty good, haven't they? When I felt so confident of them that I told you if I was wrong, I would put I love Bill Weld in Sharpie on my forehead. And notice my forehead remains clean. I'm not as confident in this one to make that promise, but I think I have a proven track record now of having pretty good sources. And my sources tell me, and it's not just one, but my sources were right about the JC, weren't they? That John Wilford, the former chair of Texas, who is the Region 7 alternate, is their hand-picked successor. Listen, big states in our party tend to control the smaller states. And Colorado's a big state. So, I'm in a position of privilege here. But I have a problem with two officers of the National Party, one being the current chair of Texas, and it's not that it's Texas, it could be any big state, and another one being the immediately prior chair of Texas. You don't see a problem with that? I do. And I would say the same thing if it was Colorado, California, Florida, any of the top 10 states. And remember, John Wilford is the guy who mocked me. And I'm going to pull out the clip. He mocked me for complaining that I wasn't getting due process, because he said, "You're not going to jail, are you?" As if that's the only time due process is important. That's the equivalent of parents telling you better eat everything on your plate because there are starving children in India. The two things are irrelevant. It's the whataboutism. Just because some people might have it worse doesn't mean that I still don't get due process. Can you imagine saying to somebody, "You're only going to spend a week in jail. What are you complaining about? There's people in jail for life." As if you can put people's rights on this scale like this. I threw up in my mouth when he said that. How dare you mock somebody like that? Allegedly, that's the hand-picked officer. And you don't think the fact that the current state chair of Texas is the national chair has something to do with that? That is why I do not believe that the national chair should be a state chair. There's too much conflict of interest. It's inevitable and has nothing to do with Texas being a big state. I would say the same thing if she was the chair of the smallest state, which I think is Rhode Island. It doesn't matter. Rhode Island's interests will not always align with the National Party, and then you have a division. But maybe I'm wrong. I'll eat my words and say, but I guarantee you he's going to be pushed. If anyone wants to make any bets with me, let me know. Okay, I want to go back to chat here a second because I had to hide it. I wanted to see if anyone said anything that I missed because I've been saying an awful lot. Comments, let's see. Taranticia, they could be putting things out there to find out who is my source. All of my sources for all of these things have been different people, just so you know. If it kept being the same people, I would question that. And I don't blindly believe things sources tell me. They have to have a certain proven track record to me, and I have to have suspected or seen the signs myself. But I could be wrong. Okay, let me just see the comments here. Okay, now things get even scarier. And the reason why I brought up John wasn't just because, I'm ass mad that they're going to illegitimately replace me with somebody. No, it's because of what he says next. And I do not want anyone with this attitude to be a national officer. And he seems like a nice enough guy. Like, I don't have any personal problem with the guy. He's a sweetheart in person. He's adorable, He's generally amiable, but check this out. Let me share my screen. 1 second. I'm sorry, this is slower because I'm on a MacBook Air, a tiny little laptop. Okay, first you're seeing my back. Here we go. So here's John Wilford. I don't think simple templates are the answer here. I think an actual review of individual bylaws and suggestions for improvement are in order. I think further it's bad form how little involvement and authority the LNC has in the bylaws it's sometimes asked to rule on. The only bylaws the LNC's ever asked to rule on is our own bylaws. He does not even understand the job of the LNC. In Texas, the SLEC, and that's, I think, their EC's for Executive Committee, I forgot what SL stands for. They have the right to reject a set of bylaws for a county for cause, and the county is required to fix them and resubmit them. In the other states, the state party sets a set of minimum standards. I do not understand why we extend our name to affiliated organization who may later ask us to review actions based on their bylaws, but we have no standards or inputs into what they must say for us to rule on them. So he's basically saying national should have to approve the bylaws of state and county affiliates. That is horrifying. Now, if Texas done that, that's what their delegates chose in Texas. I think that's a terrible practice, but I don't live in Texas. But I can tell you the worst possible reviewer of states and counties is the National Party, who knows nothing about that state. And he's going to say something I agree with, but it's not his call. Anyone with experience with bylaws would have recognized that, except in extraordinary circumstances. Actually, he's going to show some ignorance here. I agree with him and disagree with him. He doesn't know as much as he thinks he does here. Except in extraordinary circumstances, changing your bylaws should have the highest vote threshold of anything inside your bylaws, and should certainly be harder than that of a simple majority. Using the word simple majority tells me you don't know what you're talking about. To begin with, adding the word simple does not, this is my pet peeve, does nothing but confuse things. A simple majority is what the Delaware Convention decided to put in the bylaw, so here we are. He thinks the problem is that it was a majority. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that the board was allowed to amend them, not the convention, which is exactly what he wants the national board to be able to do. But he's also wrong in his blanket statement about bylaws. He is correct when all you have is bylaws. The current modern practice, when all you have is bylaws, is that they should be amended by no less than 2/3. But Delaware wasn't operating under modern practice. They were operating under older practice, where they had a separate, they called it something different than constitution, but functionally they had a constitution which had a higher threshold and bylaws which had 50%. For decades, that was the considered best practice. He didn't even know that they had two separate things. These people who decided all this stuff last night didn't do the basic, some people did, Susan certainly did. Susan did a good job. And Erin Adams, though I disagreed with every single decision she made, she did show she did research. I mean, Richard bragged that he did none. But John doesn't even know that they had a constitution and bylaws. That's why the bylaws was 50%. That used to be standard practice. If he knew what he was talking about here, he would have said, they should conform to modern practice, not have these two documents, combine them into one with a 2/3 threshold. We just had to do that in Colorado. But you want to know what? I'm going to tell you something even scarier here, guys. Yes, that is recommended modern practice. But you want to know what happens when you do that? You open the entire set up to amendment again as if they were being written anew, and you could destroy your affiliate that way. Mike and I know this very, very well. You have to be very, very precise and cautious. And he's just making these recommendations without any knowledge of this stuff. Like this Lnc have been huffing their own farts for far too long. It is a classic example of Dunning-Kruger syndrome. They don't know what they're talking about. He certainly doesn't. And I would hope that the prime candidate, if my sources are right, for secretary would at least know Roberts and bylaws and crap like that. Well, that's kind of one of the qualifications for being a secretary. I don't know, maybe he's great at minutes and other stuff. I don't know. And again, personally, face to face with the guy, he has one of the, how do you put it? There's people you meet that you just love their personalities. Like, they just have good personalities. John Wilford's one of those guys. I mean, he said crappy things about due process, and that post was terrible. But like, as a guy, you meet him in a bar, you'd want to have a bunch of drinks with him. Super nice guy. But out of his depth here. And out of his depth in a way that is authoritarian. No libertarian on the National Committee should ever make an argument like that. Ever. Oh my word. That should horrify any of you. Then people start to walk it back a little. But the fact that any of that was even publicly said without even the sense to be ashamed, there's a problem. Let's go back. Now, Richard turns even more authoritarian. Now, I'm not surprised here. And here's where things get even scarier. And here's where people really started freaking out, including myself. Richard Longstreth. I don't disagree with Mr. Wilford. Really, Richard? Like, those basic things I pointed out that I know you didn't think was important to bring up. Okay. Perhaps this signals the beginning of a bigger discussion regarding formalized charter agreements and renewing charters. Oh, they really are full of their own perceived power, aren't they? Affiliates are already chartered. You want to know the voice that immediately came into my head when I read that sentence from this guy? I've altered the deal. Pray I do not alter it further. We already have an agreement with National. National can't just unilaterally decide they're going to modify the agreement. The delegates at convention can. I doubt they would. But that's their discussion, not the Lnc's discussion. The Lnc, it's so funny that Laura Epke told me that the Lnc speaking on COVID is out of our lane. Meanwhile, this crap isn't out of our lane. It says right now we have affiliates. Everyone knows they are affiliate. But our records are lacking in any form or chartering of their organization. No, they are not, Richard, and I've told you this. Do we have the original signed charter of the however members signed off on it? No, because we had a flood in Watergate. But what we do have is reporting of the chartering being recognized by the Lnc in the official minutes of the party and reported in LP News. So yes, we do have those records. That's what the minutes are for. It says, if we want to be a franchise model, who's the we you speak of? This is a convention discussion, dude. You guys, you're like way outside of what you should be talking about here. And no, we're not a franchise model. I think it's about 15 state affiliates pre-existed the National Party. And Colorado is one of them. So a group that came later is now acting as if it gave birth to groups that pre-existed them. Oklahoma's another one. It says a charter would guide the rules and agreements to that. You want to know what you should read right here, my fellow libertarians? Codes of conduct and all this other draconian bullshit that's being done right now. That's exactly what this is all about. It says, until then, if any affiliate does want work to review their documents, he would be interested. And it's perfectly appropriate, as I said before, for him to, on his own, offer that. I don't think he should be using necessarily the Lnc list to do that, but I've probably done that myself, and I probably shouldn't have either. If anyone cares about my opinion, the fact that he didn't even point out John Wilford's basic errors, I would not recommend using Richard Longstreth to review your documents. He is a decent parliamentarian, but he's not anywhere near the level of professional. He's not even a member of the National Association of Parliamentarians, which is like a simple sit-down test. As far as I know, he hasn't continued his parliamentary education. I know he did have a pretty decent parliamentary education when he was in college, but he hadn't continued it past then. And he used to know way more than me, and now I've far surpassed what he knows because I've studied. He's had different priorities. That doesn't make me better than him. It just means I know more about RONR. He knows a lot more about other things. Like, he could be party treasurer. Like, Richard's like a financial guy. I couldn't do any of that. So again, this isn't putting him down as a person, but I am saying he's not qualified for this. But any of you out there, you think his judgment has been good, go right ahead. Perfectly appropriate for him to volunteer. And Aaron, who's also turned full authoritarian. Though she tries to walk it back, the fact that she said this to begin with is, oh my God. I would also support formalized charter agreements. I bet you would, considering that you think mean words violate the NAP. It was mentioned in our meeting that some members view the affiliates as franchisees. No, that isn't what Susan said. Susan said, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I said something similar, and I can put words in my own mouth, was the closest thing in this particular situation would be that of a franchisee. I did not say they were. I just said if we were looking for the closest analogy to find something that we could at least get some guidance on, that would be it. I don't know of any member that views the affiliates as a franchisee. None. I'm sure there are some out there. But this is not some common thing that is just clamoring for a solution that the LNC, who couldn't be bothered to deal with COVID for 18 months, have decided now all of a sudden this is a discussion that has to happen? Maybe that's the course that should be taken. Well, that's not your decision, Ms. Adams. That's the decision of the convention delegates, not you. And I don't hear anyone clamoring for that, except people who want speech codes. Now, Ken Molman put some sense into it. Now, I disagree with this first part. I'm not opposed to formalized charter agreements. You should be. And let me tell you something. I can't speak for the State Board of Colorado. I am but one voice. But I could tell you this one voice will fight to the death for Colorado to say, we ain't signing shit. And we own our own ballot line. Good luck. Now let me, and he says, I would say that I prefer, it shouldn't be prefer, he should have said, it's required that any criteria be determined by the convention body and the LNC. So he's saying that even though they might legally have the right to change the agreement as delegates, it's not ethical. You do not change. You don't marry somebody and then halfway through go, well, I've decided we're going to have an open marriage and I don't really care what you think because me and the kids all voted on it. That's not how it works. And what this will happen, if something like this happened, is a fatal split in the party would happen because there will be plenty of affiliates who are going to say, I am not signing shit. And some people go, good, maybe the party does need to split. You say that, but let me tell you what the reality of that is. Both sides would die because neither side would have the resources to rebuild. Do you know how more expensive it is now than it was when this party started? They'd be arguing over the name for 10 years. They'd never have 50 state ballot access again. Bringing to convention, and God forbid passing, some new charter agreement that includes much more than what's the requirements now, which are minimum. You must agree to the statement of principles. You must file a copy of your bylaws with the party secretary. Certain things about how you can use the word Libertarian Party, which, by the way, the National Party has no right to dictate. I don't believe in IP, but they didn't even trademark it until like 1990. So anyone who was an LP affiliate prior to that could tell the LNC to go take a flying leap. We have really no legal authority. Some state parties do over that name. We didn't file a trademark till far too late. I don't believe in IP, but I'm just saying. What a disaster. So say 20 states, let's just say 15 states disaffiliate. It's the end of the party. For what? What was the urgent need here that they had to start this conversation when they couldn't be bothered to do a damn thing about COVID for 18 months and had a 5-hour meeting where they couldn't even bring themselves to condemn an obvious bad actor? But now they're plotting the destruction of the party and not even understanding that that's what they're doing. And then Aaron Adams walks it back and says, I agree that criteria should be decided by the convention body if this is the route that will be taken. Why is this route even being discussed? Was this some pressing issue, like, I don't know, people being locked in their houses that we didn't do shit on? So, this is the Trojan horse. It started with a very innocent and good-hearted suggestion from Steve. And look where it led to. Now I'm going to read you what I said to Ken Molman. You got to find the text because it wouldn't have made sense before. Because people didn't really start losing their shit. I lost my shit from the beginning with that bylaws thing, and because Mike and I have had some nightmare stories about this. But this chartering agreement thing. So this is what I said to Ken. The LNC has zero authority to have any charter agreement outside the bylaws. None, all caps. And I'm not going to say now who these people are that I'm going to refer to here. I keep my sources confidential. I have now heard from multiple affiliates that are putting disaffiliation from the National Party on the table. That whole thread is a direct threat to the affiliates. This LNC may very well mark the end of this party. I know that you, Eric, Steve, etc., because I thought Eric had input in that thread, but he didn't, mean well, but this whole path is the path to hell. I'll be doing a show on this. Hello. And I ask you all to listen with open minds. I don't blast people who mean well, and I've never blasted the people that I've said here meant well. But the idea itself is going to receive the full force of kill it with fire. I seriously doubt that Colorado would sign anything. And, again, I can't speak for the board, but I think this would be on the table for a lot of affiliates and might even consider suing the National Party, though that would not be my decision because we pre-existed National. We will only agree to what is required in the bylaws, and that should be the position of everybody. Now the delegates can choose to amend the bylaws, and I think that would be suicidal. And then I said to him, however, if it's presented as a bylaws amendment, that is fair and square. Doesn't mean it's a good idea, but at least it would be done properly. And then he apologized for not getting back to me sooner. And this is what I said. I said, don't worry about it. I'd call you if I urgently needed to speak to you. I just want you to honestly know, as you are not in the echo chamber, but this party is seconds away from disaster. There is serious hidden decay that will not take much to collapse the whole thing. I pray for this LNC to accept the fact that they are lame ducks, that they are not trusted, and for them to pledge to simply do no harm and work to put on a great and profitable convention. It's unfortunate, but even any great ideas have now been poisoned by distrust. I feel so bad for good guys like you. We do disagree on several things, but you always have my utmost respect. As someone said to me, real recognizes real. Ken, you are the real deal. And that was my email to Ken. And I mean that to each and every one of the good members of the LNC. I can be prone to hyperbole because I'm a very colorful, overly emotional person, but I'm generally not a conspiracy theorist. I'm generally not a disastertarian. Like, I'm not the whole world's going to end if this happens. Like, that's not my style. You know, I might, like, get overly emotional about something, but I don't, like, believe the government's behind everything. I don't think we're being ruled by lizard people, though Joe DePasquale, with his not blinking thing, has really caused me to question reality. And I don't think I have ever seriously said that I think we're witnessing the end of this party. But I'm saying it now and I believe it. And I don't want that to happen. And ironically, for someone who's such a history buff, my whole suspension was the flashpoint. And it wasn't about me. I don't even like calling it my suspension, because it's now no longer anything about me. But that event revealed. If you guys might know of the Champlain Towers in Miami, it's that condo building that collapsed like in an instant. But over the years, you know, cracks were developing in its support columns. And then right before it collapsed, people just started noticing like the concrete was falling down. And they were seconds from disaster. My suspension was people noticing the concrete falling down. And unless we get an engineer in here to shore this thing up, it's falling. And putting your head in the sand isn't helping. This LNC needs to stop. They need to step back and just worry about putting on a convention. They destroyed themselves, and they need to just accept it and move on and do better. I'm never a person to say that anybody is irredeemable. Some people might be irredeemable to me personally, like I will never trust Richard Longstreth again. But that doesn't mean he's never going to be of any use to the party. It doesn't mean he can't change. It doesn't mean he can't turn out to be the most wonderful person in the world with some growth 10 years from now. I just personally am not going to risk my heart again, because he was one of my best friends. And I just can't get over that betrayal. But I believe everybody is redeemable. So when I say they need to get over it and move on, I don't mean disappear. I don't mean leave the party. But I do mean they just need to just stop right now. And just take the pledge to do no harm and get us through convention. Or have their names go down as the LNC that destroyed this party. And I mean that with every ounce of my being. And maybe I'm being alarmist. I hope I am. But I've studied an awful lot of the history of this party and other third parties. I'm a historian at heart. I'm dead serious. And I'm not saying this with any kind of glee. I'm saying this with the agony and dread. Because I still believe, despite the shitty LNC, that the Libertarian Party is the best vehicle we have for liberty in this country if we care about our fellow man, rather than their petty little power struggles. Realize that people's lives were being ruined. People were being thrown in cages. Like all the freedom infringements that happened in that 5 hours where they couldn't bring themselves to toss a fraudster out on their ass. Just consider the irony that they spent more time defending the lie, that my criticisms of them, because they didn't agree with legitimate criticism of public figures, was fraud, but they couldn't bring themselves to call what Will McVeigh did fraud. Just think about that for a second. Honestly, they won't do it. But those people, those 11 at least, they need to resign. If they cared about this party, they won't, though. There is a moral defect in them when they can argue with a straight face that criticism of political decisions by a member of a different political faction in a political party is fraud. But Will McVeigh's theft of $10,000 and a whole party and throwing all of those people out of the party isn't. They're morally handicapped. There's something wrong with their morals. Okay, let me look at chat. And I'm going to answer some questions. One second here. Ooh, you guys, thank you for the comments. I'm so sorry I couldn't interact in real time. I'm on a screen. I'm on a 13-inch MacBook Air. It's small. That's what she said. Oh, I couldn't help myself. Okay, Pat Ford is based. Okay, yeah, I'm back to here. Yeah, Taranticia. I'm sorry. I know I'm mangling your name. I mangle everybody's name. Somebody is nudging this behind the scenes. I think so. Maybe not. Ryan S., I agree with you. Let's put this on the screen. Sounds like issues of local bylaws should be mediated by a group of people previously agreed upon. Parliamentarians and the LNC should have nothing to do with it. Or not. This is something for the states to handle. The LNC needs to butt out. And this needs to be Richard Longstress' campaign slogan, truth in advertising, because it sums up his entire term. That I have purposely avoided learning it. That's the funniest damn thing. Jason Cox is right. People that would do that kind of dirty junk inside the party, they should never have power over Americans, over anybody. Agree with you. Hayden, I would hope that, but again, I just want to be clear. I don't want to overstep my bounds. I'm merely the state secretary, but I can tell you how I would vote and how I would debate. And that's a hill I would die on. Like, not literally, but like, I would scream that until my voice was raw. Because all of this ultimately for me, as it should be for each of you, I protect affiliates, but ultimately, why do I protect affiliates? Because I want to protect Colorado. The Libertarian Party is my thing, but my most specific thing, it's not the National Party. My devotion is to the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and I've never, ever hidden that fact. I know, isn't this crazy? They claim they can't do anything at all. And then the very next day, they're talking about writing bylaws and charters. And they didn't say the quiet part out loud, but I will. Codes of conduct. Charles Schaefer, I am so sorry that you believe they're real. But bird watching goes both ways. That's all I can tell you. Okay, Matt, I've seen you say this a bunch of times. I'm going to argue with you, dude. But ultimately, I respect your free will. Renewing your national membership does not hurt the LNC or the corrupt actors. It hurts the states because it prevents things like CRM development. It prevents us being able to properly file with the FEC. It prevents the things we have to do to exist as a political party. This is why I say, though, if you have that kind of conviction, earmark your membership fees. Most people don't know they can do that. I used to get a lot of gas for saying this when I was an LNC member, but I'm not an LNC member according to them. Deny it to the general fund. So I'm just going to give you some examples, but there are more examples. Say you think we need to be filing more lawsuits against these COVID vaccine things. Earmark to the Legal Defense Fund. Say you think you love history like I do. Earmark it to the Historical Preservation Committee. Earmark it to ballot access. You can earmark it. If there's a staff member that you think's doing the best job, you can earmark it towards their salary. The way to hurt the LNC, if that's what you want to do and not hurt the membership, deny them your membership fees in the general fund. But please, I'm begging you, renew your national membership. Let me check something, because I might be able to motivate you to do this right now. I bet you they disabled it, because this is how much they want to unperson me. I'll check this later and I'll put it in notes because I don't want to take too long. But there used to be a link I had, a personalized link, that when you renewed, it showed that you were referred by me. I bet you they disabled that link because they care more about unpersoning me than they do the own party. John Phillips mentions today on the list, it's been brought to my attention that Otto still isn't on the website. Yeah, I brought that to their attention a month ago. You want to know how long it took them to remove me? They hadn't removed David Valenti a month after he quit. I was removed within 5 minutes of that LNC meeting. Whitney can do things fast when she wants to. My flyer is great off her nave, isn't it? Wake up, Colorado. But imagine my coworkers, though. That's what's funnier. Just imagine these people. We do not know each other very well. They just know there's like this pink-haired paralegal, and they keep coming in my office, and I just keep seeing the side eye over to the birds aren't real thing. Thank you for considering it, Matt. That's all I can ask of you. Yeah, David Valenti quit for health reasons. I'm going to speculate here, and this is what they call fraud when I speculate, but I give you the reasons for my speculation. I know he did have some health things. But David Valenti, at the June LNC meeting, and I'm just saying this to point out hypocrisy, I wasn't offended. I'm not a shrinking violet. I don't go and turn people in. But David Valenti, the Friday night of the June Lnc meeting, got extraordinarily drunk, started making very ethnically insensitive jokes. Now, they weren't about black people, they were about hillbillies, as he put it. I think the joke he said was that West Virginia's family tree looks like a telephone pole rather than a bush. And apparently, because according to his wife, who told him that he had to apologize to me, got a bit too frisky with me. Now, I'm very flirtatious myself. It doesn't bother me at all when people get flirty with me. I am loyal to my husband, and my husband is loyal to me. I am completely secure in that. But apparently, he got out of line with me. It didn't offend me at all. But it mortified his wife, who made him apologize to me. So when they started trotting out all this crap about me, I go, really? Well, I guess then I should think there was this NAP violation, that I allegedly got sexually harassed here. But I'm going to make it clear. He didn't offend me. I don't care. Tell whatever jokes you want. I'm not your mother. But your wife made you apologize to me. So I do think he quit because of health reasons, but I also think he quit because he realized that he done screwed up. But let me make it clear, I don't care. I will not be reporting anybody here if you flirt with me. I think human beings flirt. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I laugh when Wayne flirts with waitresses. I flirt with waitresses. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. Okay, that seems to be it for comments. I'm going to keep this up for a few more moments. For two reasons. I'd like to see if there are any more comments. Holy crap, it's 10 o'clock. I told him I was going to be late. I'm going to be working at least another hour and a half here. See if there's any more comments. I flirt with you all the time, Mike. I flirt relentlessly with you. But we're both secure in our marriages. We're best friends, but I am a terrible flirt. I'm a terrible flirt. And Wayne is he doesn't admit it. He doesn't admit it. But oh my God, does he flirt with waitresses. But if they're cute, I'll flirt with them too. Who cares? So let me see if there's any other questions. I'm trying this week to get D. Frank Robinson on to talk about the non-aggression thing. Mike and I are going to do the recap about, I love it when Mike said on the show, we're happily married to other people. Because Mike and I would murder each other. Oh my God, can you imagine? We would both be in jail, I think. Or dead. Oh my God, but it would be a spectacular, that'd be an explosive relationship. So I'm trying to have D. Frank on to talk about the NAP thing. I want to talk to him about his unique bylaws interpretation of the suspension. I do not agree with him on it at all. I think Mike thinks he has some merit. I want to tell you another piece of the puzzle I found that, to me, conclusively proved it. And the last opportunity is, I was getting there, CJ. CJ's my official merchandise model now. There is new merch in the store. CJ just got his Comet t-shirt and sent me the wonderful glamour shots of him in it. And I asked him to do a promo video for me. But I dropped new merch today as well that has the Statue of Liberty, and it says principles over decorum. And there's going to be more merch dropping. So get your merch at tinyurl.com/pinkflamemerch. We truly appreciate it. I want to see a lot of that at convention. That would really make me happy. And there's a wide selection. But Top Lobster's also designing something new for me, so be on the lookout for that. And I guess that's it. And a last few moments to grift for super chats. Oh dear me. I guess I didn't work the poll hard enough tonight. You guys are the best. I will be updating Mike. I do need to update the outro. There was a very generous patron's the wrong word, contributor to my campaign. You know who you are. The personalized thank you is going to be going out very soon. I've been swamped with my new job. My thank yous are taking longer than I like, because I usually like thanking people immediately. You should never take support for granted. Okay, everyone. Love you all, and I hope this was educational, and I hope you take it back to your state boards and tell them, run away screaming from this. It's a Trojan horse, and you will not like what it's filled with. Have an awesome night, and let me find my closing screen. Oh God, where's my closing screen? Overlays? Oh, the screen is too small. I'm going to talk through this. I think it's, oh no, it's scenes. Okay, I'm getting there. I'm figuring it out. God, the screen is too small. Wayne, I need a new computer. Okay, bye-bye.
Gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business.